You're listening to Grant's Rants. Subscribe and spread the word. There are a lot more rants to come. Listen anytime on all major podcasting platforms. And now, back to the show.
And we're back on the podcast. I am joined by Alyssa and Taylor. Welcome back to the pod.
Hi, thank you.
This is a good one. And now we're getting into the biggest story on the planet in my world, Britney Spears. Top line thoughts. There's been a lot of news. She's now finally, for the first time in 13 years, the judge ruled one time in her favor to be able to bring in her own attorney. It happened. She's, had a lot to say. We're going to get into it. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm so happy that she got to hire a real attorney, especially since she's spending so much of her own money on this. And hopefully he'll actually start fighting for her, especially since they're under such a specific public microscope at this point. Her Instagram is confusing to me, and I know we're going to get into that. It makes me feel like anytime I'm trying to learn more about Britney, or I'm trying to enjoy Britney and celebrate Britney's body of work, that I'm participating in something that she hates. But it does seem like she loves her fans, so I'm not sure where the line is for her.
No, I agree. I think it's so insanely stressful to me. And I know it is to Alyssa too. And it sounds like it is to you, where you're just like, I want so badly for her to just be happy and healthy. And there's just like so much information coming at me all at once. And like, I am overwhelmed.
Well, I've been tracking this story for what seems like a million years. And I'm glad to see that the world has finally caught on to what this is. I had people question me on this podcast, like, what if I'm wrong? And I'm like, hold on, there's a lot of information here. There's a lot to unpack. And finally, it hasn't broken out and people are seeing exactly what, and I didn't know all this either. It's unfortunately, it's been darker than I thought, than we all thought. And I can only imagine what we still don't know. And we probably won't know it all ever. But you know that someday there's a sit-down interview coming, and that, I will take the day off of work to prep for that, even if it's like a 10 o'clock interview.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah. So I'm too invested in this. And it's interesting how a lot of her recent comments have reflected what the Free Britney movement has been saying about the people in her life. So there's a lot of validation that comes along with this, but it's also worse than we thought. But things are moving in the right direction, but nothing's for certain. So it's still very much in a limbo situation. And, you've got a very odd, different approaches being made in the media and how they've covered the last 2-3 weeks. Well, let's say last month since she spoke. Then there was a second appearance on the 14th of July, and here we are. So it's been an interesting approach. Now most things are pro Britney. Before there was a lot of pro conservatorship talking points, TMZ and ABC, GMA. So at least it's like going in the right direction. I don't see, again, I've said this now a bunch of times, if you're not saying Free Britney at this point, what are you saying? So
Yep.
Very important to point that out. I am still optimistic by all of this, but I want to look at these Instagram posts, and I think that the team is easing the reins a little bit.
Yeah.
If these posts are really her. Now, is this Jamie's team trying to paint her as hysterical?
So now we know that I've sourced so much Britney information at this point. I can't remember where this came from. I'm so sorry. I think it might be Eat, Pray, Britney, the podcast. But basically she talked about or someone revealed that she submits the post to a company. She's not allowed to acknowledge the conservatorship, and then they filter it, and then they end up posting it. And so in the past, like right after the New York Times documentary premiered, she posted a picture of herself performing Slave for You. And basically it was tearing down the documentary and saying she hated it.
And when that and all that. Yeah.
Yes. And when I saw that, I was like, the punctuation is not the way the other punctuation is. I didn't believe that was her posting that. I didn't have the same reaction with this one. And this is why I'm confused, right? Like, I think the New York Times documentary and all of these news stories that are trying to explain how we feel about Britney Spears, how we've treated her through the decades, and how we viewed her conservatorship. I think it's ultimately doing more good than bad, because I think there's a lot of people who went away from Britney, who thought Britney was stupid, who didn't see a problem with the way that we talked about her as a woman in this world, and are now relearning that everything that was done to her is incredibly wrong. But I also hear how Britney is like, stop profiting off of my downfall. This is still the same category as that. So as I'm trying to learn this information, I'm like, well, wait, am I still profiting off of her downfall? Or is,
Great point.
like,
Excellent
I'm
point.
not sure. I'm not sure how to handle it going forward, but I want to know what's going on with her so I can tell people about what's happening so they understand what a serious situation this is and that it's not some celebrity gossip.
I couldn't agree more. I think, yeah. I mean, I read a book a long time ago called Trainwreck that was by Sadie Doyle. And it was all about how we just destroyed Lindsay Lohan and Britney Spears and that and I felt so guilty reading it. And then you want to, as a fan, be somebody you want it to be all positive, and it's getting tough. It's just a really tough situation.
It gets darker and darker. And like Britney's always been my number one from like fourth grade on. So it's hard that my number one is the worst, just suffered the worst, like everything times worse with her than anybody else. I mean, comparing to even a Lindsay, even a Paris, looking at Christina, like that Britney really got the worst of it. And still to this day does. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah.
Imagine. Let's look at these posts. So there are two. I'm only going to read the full second one, but there was a post made, and like I want to mention, I think the reins are being let up because there's nowhere else for this team to hide. I think it's down to about a dozen people that are pro conservatorship, and they're completely outnumbered. We'll see. I question everyone, and I'll just say that every single person in all of these hearings, I question their involvement in all of this, and you can infer who I'm discussing, but there's a long list of people. Some people sit in chairs, some people sit behind a bench, and you can question from there how I view this. But this was one post here. This is kind of the first time like anything has actually happened here that like could be potentially from Britney that like is a direct message that is not in code. She says, "Never forget who ignored you when you needed them and who helped you before you even had to ask." And that's something we can take with us in all of our lives. But yeah, I mean, she basically says that, now you care. Where were you when I was drowning? And it's a real post in my point of view. I hope it's real. I don't know, because other people have said that these posts have gotten more aggressive, and that might be leaning towards why they're going to paint her as hysterical. But public opinion is pro Britney. So I don't see how, if this was fake, this would help Jamie.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I don't see how this would help him at all.
It's also it's so insane that this idea, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So they're saying, oh God, look how out of control she is. She's posting all this crazy stuff on Instagram. This is why she can't run her own life. And it's like, you shouldn't be, you should be allowed to make mistakes on social media. You should be allowed to say whatever you want on social 100%. Media. That doesn't mean you should be in a conservatorship. No. But anything you do when you're in a conservatorship is like more evidence. Any normal human emotion or misstep or, wrong opinion or whatever. Not that I'm saying any of this is wrong, but whenever you do that, they use it as further proof to keep you under lock and key. And so it to me is like, I mean, I could see that happening. I could see them say, like, let Britney basically throw herself under the bus. But we're just so far past what the definition of this conservatorship is intended for that anything short of getting rid of it is just criminal. And I feel like people are going to riot. Like, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
I'll go to the street. I already told my boyfriend, I was like, you need to mentally prepare yourself for when I go to the streets for Britney Spears. Like, I'm going to get dirty doing this. Like, it's too important. And it's so wild that you would go, you're trying to keep her under a conservatorship. And if she makes any sort of message that says, I hate being under this conservatorship, that you would be like, see, she's crazy. Yeah. Like, she's just saying she hates what the quality of life that she's living right now. And all of these restraints and all of these insane things. Like, come on.
I also just have so much patience for anything she says that seems like quote unquote weird, because she's been abused for 13 years. I said after her hearing, I was like, I'm shocked that she has such a record of everything that's happened to her. Like, she's living in trauma that does things to your brain. They've literally drugged her. Like,
and being told you're crazy for 13 years, you cannot function. You have dementia.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Also, you guys, she's not a normal person. She's literally a goddess.
Yeah.
So like, I'm never going to judge what she says as if it should be from a quote unquote normal person. Not that there is even that, but like to say like, this is weird, or she seems like she is Britney Spears. Like she is operating on a different level because of her talent and everything that is so spectacular and wonderful about her. And she's never been given the opportunity to have a quote unquote normal life. So how are you going to judge her based on that? Like,
exactly.
You can't.
Also, we're talking about a young mom who had allegedly, people have said she had postpartum depression, couldn't see her kids, and she was a 26-year-old. Come on. 26. So people didn't realize like she hasn't been able to like have any freedom or live, even though she wasn't even necessarily free at 26 when it happened. But I mean, she hasn't even been able to like live as an adult, and she lost all that time. So yeah, you try being locked up for 13 years, and so you're going to be people who say
and then show me what you post on Instagram.
Well, let's look at this post. This post, new, like very recent at the time of recording this podcast. Take me as I am, or kiss my ass, eat and step on Legos. And then her post, I'm like, whatever, Britney, sure. What I just go right to the post. Like, okay, what's the real deal here? And she says, for those, I'm going to read this in different sections, we'll react. For those of you who choose to criticize my dancing videos, ... Look, I'm not going to be performing on any stages anytime soon with my dad handling what I wear, say, do, or think. I've done that for the past 13 years, ... I'd much rather share videos, all caps, yes, from my living room, instead of on stage in Vegas, where some people were so far gone they couldn't even shake my hand, and I ended up getting a contact high from weed all the time, ... which I didn't mind, but it would have been nice to be able to go to the MFing spa. Okay, stop here. A lot already. I don't know how we got from her dad to the spa, but okay. There's just, I mean, she's got a lot to say. When you have been silenced for so long, yes, you just let all the air out of the balloon.
I love so much that she's like, how are you guys going to be like so obsessed with me coming back and performing and also making fun of my videos of me dancing? Like, it's all the same stuff. So I am doing it my own way.
I just think she is. It's so interesting because this is the second time she's brought up weed, right? Like, she brought up that Miley Cyrus got to smoke weed on stage and nothing happened to her. And I think rightfully so. She's so hyper focused on what is unfair about her situation. And she's really honing in on the minutia. Like when someone was high and shook her hand during her performance, it could have been at a time where weed was not legal. I don't think weed's legal in Nevada. So she's probably like, they're literally breaking the law and nothing is happening to them. And I didn't do anything. And I'm not even allowed to go to the spa by myself. So while it does sound very disjointed, I can kind of get in her headspace of like, how am I being punished for literally everything I do?
All right, you connected those literal dots for me with
that. Wow. Alyssa, you need to write a dissertation on this.
I have not to the level of what she's talking about, but I have similar parental relationships as her. And I also am very hyper focused on what's fair and what's not fair because of that. And so I think that's where that's coming from. When you have someone who's so controlling, who makes everything like, you're not worthy of having the basics, you start to feel like your whole life is unfair and everyone has more than you.
Yeah. Well, I saw this post. It came up because I think Britney is always at the top of the feed because it's always like very important. And I was at a party. It was kind of messy, and I was like, I had to stop everything for this post. So I read it a couple drinks in late at night, not prepared for this. So I'm still taking it in because it was just like this is a lot here. This is the first time we're led to believe she's writing this, and there's a lot to be said. I wish someone would grant this girl an interview. I know plenty of people have reached out, I would imagine, but she's so controlled she can't. So this is it. She goes on to say, and no, I'm not going to put on heavy makeup and try on stage again and not be able to do the real deal with the remixes of my songs for years and begging to put in new music in my show for my fans. So I quit. Well, we knew she quit. We knew that she was done. Larry Rudolph went on not one, but 2 tours, whining and complaining and so sad that she might not ever perform again. Like, dude, exit stage left, never to be seen again. So, I mean, what do we make of this? So this isn't really new news, but I mean, she formally quits.
It's interesting because I listened to We Need to Talk About Britney with Jen Zaborowski, and she has talked about how Britney like loves aliens and wanted to put this new song about an alien in her show, and she like was never allowed to. I mean, can you literally imagine having a whole catalog of music like she does and not being part of the process of picking the songs that you get to perform? That sucks so bad.
She's paying these people too, but there's no favors being given. Like,
it's crazy.
Yes, there's just like so much money involved. Yeah, it would be so wild to go, you're famous because you're Britney Spears, but you're not allowed to be a part of what that really means ultimately. Like, can you imagine what that would do to your mind? Like, people are coming to see your show that you're headlining and you didn't get to help like pick out the songs or have like a voice in it.
I would live at a stage 11 out of 10 anger around the clock.
Yeah. And it would be, and God forbid the things that you don't love doing, the things you don't want to, you just like, for whatever reason are like, actually this song is annoying to me. I don't want to do it. And you just have to.
It is shocking to me. Like, we've been, just to be very honest from the beginning, we've been like, the Free Britney movement, obviously we're on board, but there's a lot of different sects of it. And there's a lot of different types of information and people related to it. And so sometimes we've been like, I don't know, let's take a step back. Maybe we don't know all the details. Obviously, way more details have come out now, but it's interesting to me to hear her confirm, I am upset because I don't get to choose my songs. Like that, it's crazy that people were surmising that, and that's actually true.
Yeah. I mean, it was obvious. I mean, I saw the Vegas show a couple times. I know that she hates the Baby One More Time thing, and they do it all. There's 2 new songs, some Glory in there. One of them is on like a loop of videos. I mean, it has to be frustrating when you've performed Baby One More Time for 20 years and you're like, okay, we've done this. Like, I get it. Let's go back to the post. So the next thing she says, and I'm all ready to go in with sharp nails with Jamie Lynn. Here she goes. I don't like that my sister showed up at an award show and performed, in caps, my songs to remixes. A bunch of exclamation marks. My so-called support system hurt me deeply. Bunch of exclamation marks. This conservatorship killed my dreams. ... So all I have is hope, and hope is the only thing in this world that is very hard to kill. Yet people still try! Exclamation marks. Okay, so now Jamie Lynn, who has put out that horrible video. Jamie Lynn, who claims she has nothing to lose or gain, doesn't care what happens to her sister, has no opinion about it whatsoever. Is in line to inherit the estate and definitely get security money, allegedly, but that's been out there for a long time. As like, I like that she called her sister out directly for this. And Jamie Lynn went and liked the post, by the way. Like, what?
No, are you serious? Wow. If I'm Jamie Lynn, I'm getting all of the best bodyguards I can find, honey, because that is, I mean, people were already at her throat. You know what I mean? And then to have Britney actually be like, I agree. I'm disappointed. My so-called support system is yikes. And it is dark. It's really, really dark to think that, like we're saying, she is a goddess. She's operating on a different level. And you would hope that the people, somebody like a sibling, would be able to not be leeching from her. And yet here we are,
Yeah.
Jamie Lynn killed a bunch of cats by mistake with her Tesla. So she's a bad person.
True.
There's that video of her out there at like a pita shack or something with a knife.
Yeah.
I mean, she to me is just a straight up liar in all this. And if she wanted to be an advocate, she had many years to be an advocate and really just say, I'm Team Britney no matter what, as opposed to being like, I don't care if she wants to have babies on Mars. Like, I'm like, well, you are an idiot. And that's the nicest word that I can use for that chick. I love what you say about her. Like, she is below the earth, in my opinion. That's how low I view her. But anyway.
I agree. And the only reason we even know who she is because of Britney. You know what I mean? Like, you've gotten everything handed to you because of the situation, and you're going to be the worst about it. That's what you're going to do. Great. We're all watching.
And Jamie Lynn, I see the pictures you posted, Lou Taylor, by the way. We do see those. Just so you know. Just to go on to this post, she says, I don't want to laugh because this is serious. I mean, this is someone who's like letting off steam from like 2008. I mean, it's imagine.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way the documentaries bring up humiliating moments from the past. I'm way past all that and have been for a long time, ! And for women who say it's weird the way I still have hope for fairy tales, go F yourself, middle finger, ! I like that she like singled out women. Like, it's kind of like, I think I don't understand that.
Yeah. I'm also wondering, do you think she's talking about being older and wanting to have a baby?
I don't know. I'm not following necessarily.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not. This I'm not connecting the dots with. I mean, she's always had this affinity for fairies and things like that. And you can think back to the early tours, and there were always those video packages. And I mean, there's something to that. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, who cares? I mean, well, also she's talking about having nothing but hope here. I mean, there's a lot of hope and fantasy in fairy tales, and she has been kind of locked in a gilded cage in, somewhere deep in Westlake Village for many years. So let's move on to the last portion of this clip. As I said, ... hope is all I have right now. You're lucky I post anything at all, ... If you don't like what you see, unfollow me, ! People try to kill hope because hope is all one of the most vulnerable and fragile things there is. I'm gonna read a mother effing fairy tale now. PSS, if you don't want to see my precious ass dancing in my living room, or it's not up to your standards, go read an effing book. And there's ! and an emoji to follow of a book. You know what? I'm all about it. I wonder what her lawyer, the new lawyer, has to say about this. But I mean, this was jarring. This was a lot. Isn't it funny
that this feels, especially that last portion you just read, like so targeted towards the haters, right? And like, obviously the three of us are consumed by how much we love Britney. So it's funny to me when she like, exactly. So the sort of like, well, if you don't like it, you can whatever is, it's funny to me because I'm like, who are you talking to? Obviously we know in your closer circle who you're talking to and like the very real battles that she's facing. But when you think of Instagram being sort of a public platform and it having sort of that tone, I'm like, I'm here reading this because I'm obsessed with you. I like lie awake at night thinking about you, Britney. Like, I have a theory
and I'll make it quick. But when it comes to this, and this is my theory, this is not based on any fact. I believe that they have been putting things in her head that people are saying, Britney, you really are crazy. And everything you post on Instagram, people are like, all the comments are how bad you look, how bad you dance, how crazy you look. And I think that they put that in her head. And I don't think she's really seeing these comments at all. So she's reacted to how she's looked multiple times and how she's danced multiple times. And I am not seeing that pushback in the comments. So I think that that's all a plant in my point.
I think that's a really good theory. That's a really, I think that makes so much sense.
It also, because she used to do these videos where she would be like, you guys have been writing in and asking me what my favorite color is. And it's like, who's telling you people have been writing in? Like, what's that? What year are we in?
It doesn't even work that
crazy.
way.
Yeah.
So no one's doing a Q&A on Instagram comments.
There's definitely a roundabout. Like, she definitely does not know what Instagram Live is. Like, there is I think you're right. There's a channel of information she's being given that's inaccurate.
Yes.
Well, let's skip to our last story here. From the very sweet to the very corrupt, in my point of view, Erika Jayne. I am convinced, I think it is beyond obvious as the sky is blue that Erika is clued in. She is in the know. This is all part of the thing. She is no fool in my point of view. Ladies, what do you make of Erika?
Okay, here's my biggest thing out of a long list of sort of red flags from this episode, previous episode, even, looks into next week, is her sort of story that she's creating is like, look, behind the scenes, Tom and I were not good. He was not supportive. He was a monster, essentially. And then yet she is breadcrumbing this man's alibi. She is going, you know what? Tom's vision was getting bad. His hearing was getting bad. He didn't have his wits about himself. And I'm going, you pick a lane. Like you're either vilifying him and saying, I didn't know what he was doing was completely outside of, my knowledge. And now I'm in this divorce and I'm just like being pulled into his storm. And instead she's trying to do a little bit of both. And it was so insane to me. And I will also say, and Alyssa pointed this out first, is that there is no mention in any of her tears, her mascara tears, of any of the real victims of this entire multiple crimes.
Say it again. Yeah, no,
it's tough because it's like, I think about this a lot. I probably think about it way too much. It's actually pathetic now that I'm realizing this, but I can see how maybe her lawyers would advise her not to address that. But at the same time, you could say something like, if this is true, which I hope it's not, I feel horrible for the victims,
make a statement, acknowledge the victims in some capacity.
Doesn't it feel like right now she got caught or they got caught? If you were watching it, you've been living under a rock. You don't know nothing about what's happening in terms of their general case. And then you watch the recent episodes of Beverly Hills. You would think that Tom got caught in like tax evasion. Mm-hmm. She's just like, oh no, I had no idea. There's all this money. We're in really big trouble. The government is after us. And it's like, she's talking about the stakes as though, it's a big deal. And I didn't know, but like the human element of it is completely missing from what is going on.
I would think at this point, she's just going through a bad divorce, like the way it's painted. It's strange. Now I'm going to go off because this is what it's all about. I mean, I have had enough of this chick for a long time. She is an opportunist. And this is all my point of view. I'll say that at the top. This chick is an opportunist. She knows every single step before she makes it. She got into this relationship. There's obviously the age difference, a tale as old as time, to get exactly what she received. She hooked the son up with the house and the address. She made sure it all worked for her. Not only that, she created her own business. Not only that, there's financial money that has moved over to the LLC. We have seen this. We have seen the Panther ring. We have seen the benefits that this woman has had on top of the aforementioned victims of all of this. What we have seen is her not acknowledging them, as you had mentioned, but instead she's moving into, as you guys mentioned on your podcast, a nice house that I don't think I would be able to live in, a 3-bedroom house with an in-ground pool. Then we see her bragging about how she always wanted a Range Rover, and there she is driving the Range Rover. We've seen her getting in and out of private jets, and these are all staged photos, in my opinion, and I think it's disgusting. And it's, to me, the same way she got into this situation as she is now. She is testing her limits. She knows, she thinks she's better than everybody else, and she's going to flash it in front of everybody's face, and it will all catch up to her. And I really hope it does. I think she's one of the worst people.
Grant's rants. I love this.
I told you, I come with a point of view.
I just really don't understand how she's not learning from Teresa Giudice getting reprimanded by a judge for essentially flaunting all of their belongings on TV that they like didn't report to the IRS. It's the same thing. It's like,
it is
that's not your money.
Yeah, it's absolutely absurd. She claims that she had nothing to do with this or whatever's happening in the law, in the case. The bottom line is people are questioning her every week. A lot of people don't think that she knew it had any, oh my gosh, all she did was just collect the money. She had no idea what was going on. Follow the money. The money was transferred into her LLC, Pretty Mess Entertainment, Pretty Mess Media, whatever it was called. There's money there. Now the judge thought enough of it to be able to send victims after her, to be able to get money from her. So how could she have been so clueless and not benefited at all? I think there's zero argument for the fact that she did not know what was going on. And it's an insult to my intelligence, and she's not going to get away with it.
That's so funny.
I've had it with her. I really have.
I sense that you have. And I here's what I will say. Can I do, it's not at all to say that she's not guilty. Cause I do think
I'm all for another side. Yeah.
But I want to play devil's advocate with you for a moment, which is to just say that I do think in terms of what we're watching, she is set up to fail because here she is. She's known as this like ice queen of being very cold, not showing a lot of like vulnerable emotion. And people have come for her for that just in general on the show. No. And then now when she's crying, we're like, what about your mascara? Like when she's crying too much and it's too much of a thing, she's just sort of set up where I don't know. I tried to picture in my head, what does innocent Erika Jayne look like on this show? What does she do? What would make me as an audience member go, oh, this woman was just like so in the dark. She had nothing to do with any of this. And I can't picture that. And I think that's really bleak.
You know what that would look like? Someone who lost everything, not failed up in my point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, I see the only person, if you're looking at her and then the victims, the only person I see benefiting from this is Erika. She's the one driving the new car and living in the new house.
Sure. And here we are talking about her. And I think like, that's the thing, right? Like, I think, I think that ultimately there's a no press is good or all press is good press. There's no such thing as bad press. It took me 7 years to get to that. But for her, I think that she might think that.
I readily do not know all the details of this. And I don't want to come across as ignorant. And I was saying with Free Britney, where people didn't have any information, they were so quick to judge. However, I am viewing this with like both eyes open and just kind of like what, like it just doesn't look good to me. And I don't like to be hoodwinked. And she's out there with the ring on and driving the new car. And it's just, to me, it looks like she's playing games.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter at this point if she knew that where the money was coming from. It's still not her money. Like, it's just not. So, I mean, maybe she can avoid going to prison, like Tom is probably going to, but why are you out here like showing us your shoe closet and your brand new house and your, Vegas cabana and all of this and acting like, oh, what a huge sacrifice. I mean, you must have a terrible lawyer or publicist while you're on the show. If you're going to do the show, you better believe she's making calls every single week to her legal counsel, right? Like just to figure out what her image should be and what she's crafting. And even the idea that she's like, oh, I can't answer how I heard about the lawsuit. Like that's extremely damning.
Look at the way she left him. And that just goes to show you what an opportunist she is in many different ways. I mean, after all those years of marriage, she just like slips out like the middle of the day. I mean, I don't know the dynamic of the marriage. I can't speak to that, but I mean, it just shows her character. Well, yes. Well, tell people where they can find your podcast, because I know you guys cover these things as well. You're talking about the reality TV of it all. Where can people find it and support you guys?
Yes, we release episodes every Friday, wherever you listen to podcasts. And we have an Instagram that's Table Flipping Podcast. And we talk about, we are just such kindred spirits because this is all the stuff that we talk about. It's all reality. And then it's also a lot of Britney. And we like to do interviews with people too and a lot of them are like Alyssa and I and work in the scripted television world. And then we like to kind of give a safe space to talk about what we're told as guilty pleasures, which is our favorite, often female characters in reality or reality shows, and just talk about how it's influenced our lives and what we love, and give the floor to a Teresa Giudice in the same way that one would a Tony Soprano,
Very good. Very appropriate. That's great. Yeah, guys, please check them out. Support them. This is what we do in the podcast community. And thank you guys for supporting Rants. If you're feeling generous, leave a nice review. I don't need any negative ones. It's a free show. So moving on, I loved having you guys on. This was great. This is a really good conversation. I feel like we covered so much and we really vibed. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like I said, we're just like little kindred soul spirits. And then we're so excited to have you on to talk about Vicki Gunvalson.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes. I'm one of the few people that still stand Vicki. So
I'm so happy. I'm like, I won't get into it now, although I'm so stoked, but I'm really excited to sink our teeth into this topic because she is, love her or hate her, but she's important. She's a big deal.
The ranting will continue over on Table Flipping. All right, guys, thanks for coming on. My thanks to Alyssa and Taylor. And as always, we'll be back with more rants.
This has been Grant's Rants. Follow Grant on Twitter and Instagram at It's Grant's Rants. Cover art created by Howie Rone. Original theme music by Alexander Arntzen. The Grant Michael Collection.